Lily was getting married. My sister, my childhood partner in crime. My sister, Lily, was getting married. Lily, the same one who used to steal my toys only to hug me afterward, flashing that irresistible smile. The same one I built entire worlds with inside a tiny bedroom, where bedsheets became caves and stuffed animals, our loyal allies. The one who shared with me a universe made of pillows and whispered dreams in the dark. Together, we were architects of imaginary worlds, keepers of secrets, sailors on the same adventure. She was my childhood accomplice, my confidant, my best friend. And now, she was getting married. And me, I wasn't invited. On the day she was taking one of the biggest steps of her life, I wouldn't be there. There would be no silent glance from me, no quiet support as she stood nervously at the altar, no hand of mine to hold hers in comfort. The invitation never came. It was as if, all of a sudden, our story had been erased. As if years of laughter and complicity were just loose pages in the wind, carried away without ceremony. The lump in my throat tightened, because no matter how much I wanted to believe that nothing could ever come between us, the cruel truth was there, pulsing inside me. I had been forgotten. The love I once believed to be unbreakable. Had it vanished?
Hey guys, welcome to our channel.
My name is Oliver, and nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for the day I was shut out of the life of the person I loved most. Lily was getting married. My sister, my partner in war and in laughter, my confidant on sleepless nights when the world felt too big. The girl who held my hand when thunder split the sky. The only one who knew exactly where it hurt, even when I pretended everything was fine. Today was supposed to be a day of celebration, of unity, of laughter echoing through the air, of memories being made like eternal photographs. The day my sister Lily would take one of the most important steps of her life. I had imagined this moment so many times, standing beside her at the altar, a goofy smile on my face, a speech in my pocket, and my chest full of pride. But when the big day came, I was on the outside, literally, alone, standing on the sidewalk, lost in the dark, while she shone under golden chandeliers. Through the window, I saw her flowing dress that looked like it was made of clouds and morning light, her easy smile, her arms wide open to the world. Golden light spun around her, radiant bride. She danced, she laughed, she toasted. And among those faces, I saw them all, distant cousins, childhood neighbors, co-workers who probably didn't even know her favorite color. Everyone was there, except me, a spectator to a show where my name should have been on the list of main characters. But I'd been erased. I wasn't forgotten. I was left out. The night breeze carried whispers of music and joy, a happiness that didn't belong to me. The ache in my chest reminded me there was no room for me in there. And in the silence of the night, I asked myself, does Lily feel my absence? Or to her, am I just a forgotten shadow? But to truly understand what happened, we need to go back to the beginning. Because this story didn't start with a missing invitation. That was just the final consequence, the spark that lit the fuse. It started long before that, with an unexpected betrayal. A quiet one that unfolded behind the scenes, unnoticed by everyone, the kind no one sees coming. And when it finally came to light, it hit like a cold blade to the back, sharp, sudden, undeniable. That was the moment everything changed. The tables turned, alliances crumbled, masks fell. And I, who thought I knew every piece of the game board, realized I'd been playing the wrong game, with the wrong people. Lily and I were inseparable, not just because we were siblings, but because of something stronger, something that words rarely captured. She was my little sister, yes, but she was also my safe harbor, my silent ally, the one person who knew every corner of my soul. As kids, we survived the storms in our family together. As teens, we shielded each other from the world. And even when adulthood pulled us down different paths, we never really drifted apart. Our bond felt unbreakable, until it broke. And what destroyed everything wasn't a fight. It wasn't distance. It was a secret. One single secret, hidden for too long, toxic enough to corrode everything we had built. Her wedding was going to be a dream event, one of those picture-perfect affairs that looked like they came straight out of a magazine. A historic mansion in the English countryside, surrounded by blooming gardens, golden halls, and that carefully curated fairy tale atmosphere. Everything oozed perfection. The custom-made dress, the international guest list, the French champagne. It was the kind of celebration people spend a lifetime dreaming about. And me, I was excited, proud. I expected to be by her side every step of the way, helping with the flowers, picking the entrance song, laughing together at the inevitable behind-the-scenes mishaps. I was supposed to be her right hand, like I had always been, just like she used to say, "You're my foundation." Until suddenly, no warning, no explanation, just silence. I rewound our last few moments together 1,000 times in my mind, searching for a mistake, a misplaced word, any sign that I had done something to deserve this. But everything had felt normal, until it didn't. Read messages left unanswered, calls declined, days turned into weeks. Her absence didn't just leave a gap in my routine, it left a hole inside me. But as the days passed and her silence became more than just a coincidence, unease began to settle inside me like a shadow creeping through the halls of an abandoned house. I wanted to believe it was the stress of the wedding preparations, that she was just busy, caught up in the whirlwind of flowers, dresses, and timelines, distracted, buried in checklists and deadlines. But deep down I knew something was wrong, very wrong. And the worst part, no one said a thing. It was as if I had suddenly stopped existing. Then, in the empty space where our bond used to live, a crushing question began to form. Was this just an oversight, or a deliberate choice? What was hiding behind all that silence? The invitation never came. Mutual friends, even extended family, had already received theirs, but not me. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was a postal error, a lost envelope, a name left out by accident. I even laughed to myself, imagining some friend pulling a bad joke. It didn't occur to me, not even for a second, that it could be real. It was a strange feeling, not a scream, but a tightness in the chest that made it hard to breathe. A silence that said more than any excuse ever could, because it wasn't just the absence of an invitation. It was her absence, my sister, my best friend, my place in the world. And then came the final blow, over the phone, cold and distant, like the call had already been drained of life before it even began. "Oliver, I think maybe it's better if you don't come to the wedding." Silence. A silence that screamed. My heart stopped for a second, maybe two. I waited for an explanation. Anything. A nervous laugh, a clumsy excuse, even a poorly worded apology. But there was nothing. She just said that, and hung up. That was the moment I understood. I wasn't just being left out. I was being erased. On purpose. And worst of all, without a clear reason, without even the right to ask why. Her wedding would still happen, grand, flawless, unforgettable. But without me, without the brother she had sworn, for years, she would never leave behind. The pain of being excluded wasn't just emotional, it was physical. A knot in my stomach, a hollow ache in my chest, a suffocating sense of abandonment. I stared at my phone like it could undo everything, like maybe, if I just hit call back, time would rewind. Something didn't make sense. That wasn't the Lily I knew. So I started digging, asking questions no one wanted to answer. And the more I searched, the more I felt there was something much bigger being hidden from me. Something way beyond missing invitation. Something that might explain the silence, the rejection. I called our mom, voice shaking, fingers clutching the phone like it could anchor me to something real. I still didn't want to believe it. I needed someone to tell me this was all just a misunderstanding, a mistake. A nightmare about to end. "Mom, what's going on?" On the other end, silence. Not the kind that fills a pause, but the kind that fills a room. Heavy, cracking at the seams. She didn't say a word, not even a sigh. And in that suffocating vacuum, I felt it she knew. And she didn't want to be the one to say it. I hung up before she could bury me with a half explanation. I went to my dad. He dodged, changed the subject. Talked about the weather like the world wasn't burning around us. I tried mutual friends, people who had grown up with us, who'd shared birthdays, holidays, childhood memories. But the moment I mentioned Lily's name, their expressions shifted. That same look, discomfort, rehearsed hesitation. They avoided eye contact, murmured vague, empty phrases that led nowhere. It was as if they had all received the same script, a silent pact, a collective shield against the truth. And then, when I least expected it, the truth slipped out, not from the ones who owed it to me, but from the trembling voice of our cousin Rebecca. We were alone, surrounded by a silence already too thick with tension. "Oliver," Lily found out. She found out what Nathan did. Rebecca didn't need to say anything else. The weight of her words hit like a direct blow to the chest. Lily knew. Somehow, in some way I couldn't yet understand, the truth had reached her. Before I could protect her, before I could prepare her for the pain, the ground vanished beneath my feet. Nathan, the perfect fiancé, the man with the smooth voice, easy smile, and trustworthy eyes that could win over even the most skeptical. He had that gift of seeming flawless. He could charm anyone with half a sentence and a firm handshake, including Lily. But I knew, I had always known, or rather, I had found out, months before the wedding. Nathan was cheating on my sister. The first spark of suspicion lit up on an ordinary night, one of those evenings where everything feels too normal. Nathan laughed in a strange way, too fast, too loud, when I accidentally mentioned the name of a woman from the gym where he claimed to train. A silly detail, but it lodged in my mind like a shard of glass. I felt paranoid. No one wants to believe someone close is lying, especially when it involves your own sister. I tried to ignore it, tried to silence my gut, smother the suspicion. But something was off, and that feeling wouldn't let me rest. I forced smiles, swallowed the discomfort, but suspicion has a quiet way of growing, and Nathan didn't help. So I started watching. He began disappearing for hours, tossing out loose and conflicting excuses. Sometimes he'd say he was working late, but he'd come back with wet hair and no trace of office smell. Other times he'd claim to be too tired to go out with my sister, yet he'd post stories with friends at places different from where he'd said he'd be. Small cracks, but together they formed a canyon. So I decided to act. I started mapping his schedule, comparing it to my sister's. I made a simple log, date, time, excuse given, where he was seen. I noticed a pattern. Then I created a fake profile and added him on social media. He accepted, and that's when the mask started to slip. Nathan was sloppy. He liked the same girl's photos, too many of them. Always her. Comments with misplaced emojis. Captions that gave away more than he realized. And then one day, a screenshot, him setting up a meetup with her, thinking he was messaging one of her friends. That still could have been circumstantial, but I wanted proof. So I went further. I installed a tracker on his car, one of those discreet app-based ones. When he said he had a work meeting, the GPS showed a completely different address. I grabbed my keys and drove there. Waited. He came out holding hands with the same girl from the photos. I filmed it, took pictures, recorded audio of a conversation where he clearly said my sister was just a phase. The truth was right there, cold, solid, undeniable. Secret meetups at remote cafes, stolen kisses and empty parking lots. I documented it all. Filmed, photographed, collected every piece of that deception while the world around them kept believing in Nathan's charm. I became an invisible keeper of the truth, gathering evidence I thought would someday save my sister from a looming disaster. I didn't want to be right, but I was. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. When your gut won't shut up, it's almost never wrong. But I was slow. I hesitated, afraid that shattering her illusion would also destroy her happiness. I was scared. Scared Lily wouldn't believe me. Scared I'd be seen as the bitter brother, the dream crusher. So I waited, each day thinking the right moment would come. And when I finally gathered the courage to tell her, she already knew. What was meant to be a painful revelation coming from me arrived through someone else. Lily hadn't found out by accident. She went after the truth. Intuition, even wounded, still throbs. And hers started to ache when Nathan changed. Small things. He stopped looking her in the eye, switched hands with his phone when she got near, started sleeping facing the other way. One day, after yet another lame excuse about an urgent meeting, she secretly grabbed his phone, hands trembling, fingers cold, but steady. She dug through archived messages, deleted records, and found it. Conversations with another woman, photos, voice notes, details that were too intimate, laughter that wasn't meant for her. The shock hit like a punch to the gut, but it didn't stop there. That same night, she went downstairs, still holding the phone, and opened up the laptop Nathan sometimes used at home. She needed to know when it had all started. That's when she found it. An email account synced to his phone. Among the files, a PDF named log_personal. A file that made no sense at first, but when she opened it, she realized it wasn't Nathan's diary. It was mine, Oliver's. Lily sat on the floor and read it, paragraph by paragraph. The diary was meticulous. Dates, times, cross-referenced notes, screenshots, photos. I had conducted a full investigation. And the worst part, I had kept it to myself. She didn't know what hurt more, the betrayal of her fiancé, or the silence of her brother. I knew. I saw everything. I documented it. I recorded it. And still, I looked her in the eyes every day as if nothing was wrong, as if I wasn't choking on the weight of everything I hadn't said. Rebecca looked at me, her eyes full of sorrow, not just for me, but for all of us. She found out on her own, Oliver. She saw everything, but she didn't tell you, because she also found out that you knew, and didn't tell her. In that moment, the full weight of betrayal finally fell on me. It wasn't just Nathan who broke my sister's heart. I did too, and in the silence that followed, only one question burned inside me. What would Lily do now? Would she fight to protect the fairy tale she'd built in her mind, or walk away from it all before it became an irreparable lie? Her silence was the first answer. There were no tears, no immediate anger, just an emptiness in Lily's eyes, as if for a moment the world around her had collapsed. She saw the betrayal. She knew the truth. But instead of backing away, she clung to the lie, as if sheer willpower could rewrite it. Nathan, a master manipulator, didn't waste time. With rehearsed words and emphatic vows, he crafted the narrative Lily needed to believe. Empty promises of change, excuses calculated just enough to sound sincere. And my sister accepted it. Against all logic, against all the evidence. She chose to believe. When she told me, my voice broke, but not my conviction. I knew it would end in disaster, but I couldn't just stand by and watch. I looked Lily in the eyes and begged her to see past the illusion, to see what was right in front of her. A cheater is always a cheater, Lily. Call off this wedding while you still can. But my words didn't reach her. They sparked rage instead. She went quiet for a second. A dense, suffocating silence. And then she exploded. "You're ruining my life," she shouted. "You don't want me to be happy. You're sabotaging my wedding." It hit me like a punch, sudden and brutal. I stared at her, stunned, searching her face for even a flicker of doubt, some trace of the sister I once trusted without question. But all I found was the crushing accusation that, in trying to protect her, I had become her enemy. It was a lie, a cruel lie, twisted by fear of facing the truth. Me, who had always been her safe place, was now the villain in her story. And that's when I realized, sometimes the one who tries to save ends up getting thrown into the fire. And Lily chose to burn. I could have walked away then. I could have surrendered to the exhaustion, to the heartbreak, to the reality that even with all the evidence, she still chose the lie. But I couldn't let our story end like that. Not without a fight. One way or another, Lily would learn the truth, the hard way, if that's what it took. And now everything made sense. That cold phone call, that voice so rehearsed, so emotionless, so hollow. "Oliver, you shouldn't come to the wedding." The words echoed in my mind like a sentence. My chest tightened. My throat dried up. Rage surged, hot, acidic, eating away at me from the inside. But it wasn't just anger. It was abandonment. It felt like something had been ripped from me. Not just an invitation, but our history. How could Lily do this? How could she let a stranger, a liar, a traitor, erase everything we'd built together? How could she let him rewrite our bond as if it had never existed? But I wouldn't accept it quietly. I wouldn't be erased. She was my sister, my blood, and no matter how hard she tried to write me out of her story, I was still a part of it. On the day of the wedding, I put on my best suit, not to make a scene, not to ruin her day, but because I needed to see her. I needed to look her in the eyes and find out if there was still, buried somewhere deep, any fragment of love left, any sign that everything we had hadn't just been erased by force. The anger burned inside me like a wildfire, but behind it, there was something even more devastating, a deep, heavy sadness that drowned me in silence. Did Lily really want this? To erase me from her life like I was an inconvenient chapter, like I was some unwanted intruder, as if years of protection, late-night laughter, and shared secrets could just be thrown away. The mansion buzzed with illusion, loud music, clinking glasses, laughter that felt fake, like props in a cheap stage play. It was a celebration, but to me it was a lie. I stayed outside, in the shadows, watching through the window like a ghost. Someone who once belonged but was now just a memory. And there she was, spinning on the dance floor, her dress flowing like a golden river under the soft glow of chandeliers. She was smiling in the arms of a man I knew was a lie. The tears came, hot and merciless. They burned, not from anger, but from helplessness. I loved her more than anything, and still, I couldn't save her. She chose the lie, and she cut me out for trying to stop her. So I did the only thing I had left to do. I left her a letter, maybe my last attempt to reach her. I didn't try to convince her. I didn't beg her to listen. I didn't defend myself from the accusations she had hurled like blades into my chest. I simply wrote the raw truth, without decoration. I love you. I always have. I always will. And when everything falls apart, because it will, when the truth you try to hide becomes impossible to ignore, when the illusion you wore like a veil starts to choke you, I'll still be here. Not as someone who says, I told you so, but as your brother. Nothing more, nothing less. I folded the letter with trembling hands. I handed it to Rebecca, our cousin, with a look that said everything I couldn't. She understood. There was nothing else I could do, except wait and hope that someday Lily would see clearly again. And then, without looking back, I walked away. No audience, no drama, no goodbyes, just a shattered chest and a silent soul. Because loving someone sometimes means knowing when to leave, even when everything inside you is screaming to stay. Months passed, silent, heavy, the kind of silence that doesn't come from peace, but from absence. I kept living, carrying her ghost in my pocket, small, invisible, but always there. Lily never reached out, and I didn't push. Part of me was still bleeding. Her name lit up on the screen, like a memory that never died. I answered without thinking. Oliver. My name came out a whisper, and just from that, I could feel the damage. You were right. Silence. The kind of silence that screams. The silence stretched between us. I could feel that Lily was struggling to breathe, trying to piece together the shards of what remained. She wasn't the same. There was something broken there. A kind of exhaustion that didn't come from the body, but from the soul. Fragile, almost unrecognizable. My chest sank like I'd taken a hit out of nowhere. I waited, breathless. He cheated on me again. Her voice shook. This time, he didn't even try to hide it. But this time, it was different. Right in front of me, with several Oliver. And one of them was her. The same one. The one I found out about before the wedding. The one he swore was in the past. The one he promised was over. But it never was. It never stopped. Not for me. Not for anyone. He never stopped being with her, Oliver. Never. While he slept beside me, he was texting her. While he promised me forever, he was making plans with others. I was just a pawn. That's all. I closed my eyes, not to protect myself from her pain, but because there was no way to contain it. It was too big, too raw, too real. I wanted to hug her. I wanted to take back time, to undo the ignored warnings, the burned bridges. But all I could do was be there, listening, feeling. The image that came to mind was brutal. My sister, once so strong, so full of life, now crushed under the weight of a truth she fought so hard to deny. The truth she once turned against me. The truth that drove us apart. I'm sorry, she finally said, for not listening, for pushing you away, for everything. I could have thrown it in her face. I could have said, I told you so. But some ruins don't need more wreckage. Because what mattered now wasn't that I had been right. What mattered was that Lily finally saw the truth. You didn't need to apologize, Lily. I never left. On the other end, she cried, and I let her cry. Because sometimes, pain has to come out completely before any healing can begin. In that moment, the bridge between us began to rebuild, not with apologies or promises, but with truth, finally accepted, finally spoken. And that was the beginning of something new. Wounded, yes, but real. The marriage was over. No flowers, no celebration, no goodbyes, just emptiness. Dry, bitter, final. The vow spoken at the altar had shattered like thin glass. And what remained was a name crossed out from a future that had never truly existed. Nathan was the past, a ghost made of wrong choices and lies Lily could no longer ignore. Lily was in ruins, but there was something different about her now. A more mature silence, not the silence of denial, but of understanding. It felt strange at first, like learning to walk again after an accident, but it was necessary, because in the end, it wasn't the betrayal that mattered most. It was the reconnection. It was the moment she finally looked me in the eyes, with no pride, no excuses, no resistance, and said, I never should have pushed you away. And I just nodded, because I knew it wasn't just about forgiveness. It was about love, about blood, about what survives even when everything else falls apart. Two siblings, broken by the same mistake, rebuilding a bond that never should have been severed. Not with words, not with grand gestures, but with presence. Because in the end, it's not what we lose that defines the story. It's what we manage to save.
Want more mysteries, twists, and exciting moments? So you can't miss this video. Click now and continue this journey of fascinating stories. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any news. Leave your comments and see you next time.